My name is Harit Mankad. I run the engineering team here at SupportLogic, and I'm going to talk about Resolve SX. We heard about it multiple times. We just saw the architecture coming in from Saurabh showing it up, and we had one demo slide that came up during Karan's and Kritika's keynote. So I'll try and keep it compact, but happy to answer any questions. There may be some repeats, so just bear with me on that. So if you look at Resolve SX, which is one of our latest products, what it caters to is the needs of an answer seeker, right? It's a different word of saying I'm looking for knowledge. It's an answer seeker. And this answer seeker could be any person or any person within or from outside the organization. It could be a customer coming in and asking you a question or validating an answer that they have, or it could be a support engineer looking for a resolution, or it could be a sales guy looking for a customized presentation to go back and share to their end customers, right? So this Resolve SX as a product, it caters to different personas, different domains, but it still gives you the answer which is precise. And I'll talk about the precision RAG that we use as compared to the regular RAG. Right? So if you really look at it, what we have heard, and I've been part of support organizations in the past, one of the major asks that the support engineer, and I'm going to have my context of the conversation on the support organization because I think most of us here are from support. So one of the major asks that is coming in from the engineers, from the management and everybody else is that we need a knowledge copilot. And primarily it needs to be embedded into your system of records or the CRM. And the reason for that is it's easier to navigate through and get to where we want to get to. You don't have to jump over multiple hoops, but that takes time. Typical responses or typical forums when you talk to the in support and in stuff like TISA and all of that, it is telling us that this is the need of the hour. And then we have this whole AI thing coming up, right? AI is everywhere. ChatGPT is coming up. The whole revolution is coming up. And that has set the expectations on the bar pretty high when it comes to these kind of solutions. So what really defines a really good copilot for a knowledge article or knowledge base, right? What we really need is really quick and precise answers. That is what something a support engineer wants. They don't want answers that are maybe, right? They want, yes, this is how you can quickly resolve the problem. The knowledge copilot also needs to be able to work across personas, right? The same knowledge pilot, the same engine should be able to resolve support engineer's query. It should be managing escalations query. And like I said in the past, right, it should also be looking at say a sales guy trying to get his response, or even the end customer directly coming into our systems and trying to get their resolutions. And it needs to be seamless for all of them, right? The core engine, and Saurabh spoke about it, the core underlying engine remains the same. Personas could be different, and hence my responses to them could be different. And that is where it comes in. And most importantly, if you really look at it, typically the focus historically has been on knowledge bases, which are very nice, clean, curated, but then that is not your only source of information. That's about, again, if I were to take my past experience in different organizations, anywhere between 20 to 50% of the information is in this nicely structured knowledge articles. There is the huge amount of information that we don't typically tap, which is either sitting in the case notes, which is in your Salesforce or ServiceNow or Zendesk or Freshdesk. It could be sitting in Slack channels where you have communicated with internal or external resources. It could be sitting in Jira tickets, or it could be sitting in various other release notes or wherever, right? And we need to be able to get information from all of that and then come out with a concise response to the query that has come in. So that is where Resolve SX, that's the key USP of the product that we have. Okay, very fundamental question. Everybody wants it, right? And everybody has smart support teams, such engineers who are doing great jobs. So why don't we build it ourselves, right? Why do we need a product from somebody else? Very simple questions. Two parts to it. One is the data part of it, and one is the tech side of it. And data, like I said, right, where a precision RAG helps is to be able to extract the data. And again, Saurav spoke about the architecture, and I'll touch upon that, is to be able to extract the data, clean it up, remove everything that is related to the PII or security aspects and everything else, and then give you a curated, straightforward answer, which is very precise, takes you to the point and helps you resolve the query or the issue that has been raised. Second, how do we ensure that the query and the responses are in context? Is it in domain, right? You don't want, if there is a question that comes in, how do I walk my dog, when somebody is trying to solve a technical query, it should be able to tell you, the system, saying, sorry, this is not in context and I don't have an answer for that. The third is complex queries. And when complex queries, what I mean is you can actually think of it saying you have case summary, or the issue description itself can become a regular query in this system. It's not just the keyword search that we typically have, right? You go into Google, put in a few words, and it gives you an answer, versus actually giving in technical details from your case and be able to manipulate that, understand that as a query, and then be able to then come back and give you the answer, right? So that's on the data side. And then you're, again, like I said, data could be from any of these multiple sources that you have. And again, you can choose, right? And I'll show you one. And I think Karan actually showed that slide, but I'll share that demo once again. Is you can choose your sources to say, okay, I want my responses coming in only from these sources or from everything else, right? So I'll talk about it for a minute. If you look at the tech side, again, this is where, apart from what we are talking about, one of the most important things that we see there is the cost, right? Where the cost is coming in. You go back and forth. The more amount of back and forth you have with the data sources, you're using more tokens, you're using the cost on your LLM models that keeps going up. And that is because, again, it's like you keep training the models for 6 months to be able to get to that, versus real-time solution that we are providing to you. Integration, again, as your data sources keep growing up, how are you going to spend time on really building those integrations, keeping those integrations real time? And again, if you look at support organizations, do we really want our support teams to be building these tools or spending time on fixing the customer issues faster? So that's the kind of balance that we want to try and achieve. And the third most important is the workflow adoption, right? It should work for all workflows, all scenarios, and all personas. There is enough and more models available for download and to use. ChatGPT, OpenAI, a lot of them are there. And the major difference between vanilla RAG that is available from various sources versus precision RAG is the fact that you don't cater to all the scenarios that you need, right? The vanilla RAG, and I'm just calling it generic RAG or vanilla RAG, they are very good if you have a how-to based answer, right? Now, this could be something like very simply saying, how do I configure the support hub? How do I configure my escalation engine? How do I configure something? Simple, straight question, straight answer, no ambiguity. For those kind of solutions, or those kind of, if that is the problem you're trying to solve, then precision RAG is not the right thing for you, right? It's straightforward, it's simple, it's few hundred or maybe even a few thousand questions, straight answers, works perfectly fine. It works well with chatbots. I want to check into my airline flight tomorrow. Brilliant. It works. The downloaded stuff will work very well. Don't need complex solutions for that. Where the precision RAG comes in is when you're trying to fix something that is broken and your input into your query is more technical in nature. The tool needs to be able, the system needs to be able to understand the technical aspects in that context and then be able to provide a solution. My washing machine is broken. I want to fix, how do I fix my Whirlpool washing machine? The tumbler is not working. It's this, and this is the error that I see on the screen. I put all of that in context. Whirlpool guys will be able to give you the answer to that using this kind of stuff. Again, like I said, Precision RAG or Resolve SX will be able to go into the various sources of information and then be able to give you that precise answer. And I'll quickly show you one demo on how that works, right? Again, you saw this slide earlier, spoke a little bit about it. What happens here again is the responses that are getting generated, right? We want to make sure that we are not hallucinating, right? If the context is missing, we will come back and tell you as a solution saying, for this particular thing, there is no context, there is no reference. And we spoke about it, and there was a question earlier saying, can you go back and create a knowledge article and add that back into the system? Absolutely. That is something that can be done. Again, if the question is in context, but we don't have the reference to that, it is, yes, the question is relevant. Yes, it is in domain, but I do not have an answer. I would come back and give you a response saying, you know what, it is all great, but there is no reference. I cannot give you an answer right now. I would rather not make up an answer and give something up, which is not going to help. It is only going to frustrate. And we will just come back honestly and say that is not going to happen. Now, this happens with precision ranks. It does not happen with the regular downloadable, internet downloadable embedded systems. That doesn't happen. And of course, the data cleaning, making sure that no personal information, GDPR issues, all of that is taken care of. All of that, again, Abhinav spoke about it in terms of, so I'll not get into those details. But of course, that is all cleaned up. The management happens. Straightforward answers coming in. Few months ago, we actually ran a benchmark across various four organizations that we work closely with. Amber, again, that's the simplest use case. They sell coffee mugs. So you can imagine the kind of tickets that they would be getting and the kind of data that they would be processing for them. And it goes down to Waters, which is very domain specific. And those queries are very technical and complex in nature. So as we ran our engines against them, what we realized is that if your problem statement, or if the solutions or your problems or your product is complex in nature, and it is the more it is complex, the more technical it is, and you use precision RAG, the efficiency goes up by 25%. And like I said earlier, right? So if it is an how to a question, our efficiency is probably the same, not as good, because that is not what it is designed for. But if you go for more complex scenarios with very domain specific stuff, and 25% efficiency or 25% precision in support world is a big number, right? That's that much faster that you're getting there, and you're able to deliver a much better stuff. And again, like I said, the hallucinations are reduced by 2x, which is again a very good thing, because for a support engineer, trying to solve a problem in one way, getting hallucination answer going in a different way, coming back to track, it's going to lead to escalations, going to lead to a lot of heartburn and poor sentiments, right? So again, the precision RAG, Resolve XX, these numbers are there. We can happily share more details around it. And I'll quickly shift to the demo, right? So again, if you see here, what I have done is I have put in a query, and it has deliberately, if you see it, it has spelling mistakes. It has multiple things that I'm talking about in terms of my question should have been, which features does core include? Now, what it has also done, again, because I have created the context there, core in this context is the core SX product that we are talking about, right? And if you see, it talks about voice transcripts, it talks about account insights, grammar, sentiment analysis, and sales assist. And these are all the things that you saw a flavor of in the previous presentations. So picking that up, we got a few recommended answers, right? So we have answers for all of that. It also tells you when that was created. What is important is the last one, where we have said for grammatical fixing, it is not in context. Sorry, I do not have an answer for that, right? So this is again an example of where we are saying we've taken the hallucinations part out of it. On the right, what is the referenced articles? Again, this is, if you click on that, it will actually map to each of these and how it works. And the third example, right, I can actually even go here, and it gives me all the articles that are relevant to the query that I asked, but it may not really be giving me the real full-time answers that are there. So you have an extended reference, but you also have saying this is exactly where my answers are coming from, but you have more reference points there. And the last but not the least is the filters, right? Like I said, you can choose the filters that you want, and these filters get added or removed as you add and remove your data sources that you want to look at. So again, very quick stuff to demonstrate as to how the the process works, how the resolution happens, and what we see. Okay, flip back to that, please. The interesting part is that the Resolve SX engine can work on the portal. And what you saw was a very plain vanilla kind of a page. And the reason for that is typically most of our customers take that and embed it into their existing CRM system. So if you have Salesforce or Zendex or ServiceNow, it's an iframe based stuff. It just goes in there. And the engineer is not really getting jarred by different views and stuff. It just fits into your own flow, making it easier for them to interact also. And like you saw it in the past, right? So can it go back and you update here? Can it go back, update CRM? Absolutely. You update CRM, it goes back here, and sentiments. You had that question. Absolutely works, right? So you look at any of the channels that you want to use, the same engine will work, right? Again, trying to reduce the presentation time, but I would have otherwise shown how we can do the same thing on Slack. Use Slack Resolve and then ask a question, the responses come in. You would be able to see the same exact workflow and the same exact responses coming in. Again, this goes back to that first one of the questions, that's why don't we build versus buy? I'll just take that as an analogy. Both these cars take you from point A to B. This part is built for precision, right? You can navigate, you get precise answers, it is predictable, it is easily maneuverable, easily configurable. You look at that is typically how in-house grown solution is built. It is big, bulky. The performance is not always necessarily the way you want it. Again, this is not questioning the abilities of the people who are building it, but that's the natural way that it happens, right? So if we were to look at precision RAG versus vanilla RAG, and I'll stay away from saying this is Resolve SX, but this is precision RAG, this is what you want versus that, right? Again, this is my last slide. What I would like to leave you guys with is a small video from who is the VP of support from CRED. And this is one of the customers that, we've had for a very long time. And one of the customers was the most complex technical queries that they come up with. So I'll leave you with that. He will refer to Resolve SS as Xfine, which was the original name of the product before we created all our product line to have the similar names. So what he will talk about is Xfine, but what he means is Resolve SX.
We in multiple providers, to be very honest and fair. When we were looking at Xpine, we were like, still a startup. Are we going to try that search engine? But the results were really astonishing if I could. We were getting what we needed. We never thought that's going to be the case. So anyway, we started with that. I think what Xpine did for us really was 3 things I can think of. One, unified search. When we're talking about pulling information, we're pulling information from our training content, from our KB articles, from community forums. So all of the knowledge could be residing anywhere. So it's actually helping us pull out the right kind of content from there. Then what it's also helped us do really was unified experience for our customer. It doesn't matter where you are, you will still get the same experience.
That was Vineet talking about how Resolve SX has helped them. That was the last bit of it. Once again, thank you so much for staying up. Really appreciate it. And thank you for having spent all your day here. I'm looking forward to an interaction outside. Thank you so much. Sorry, let's just step out. There's some snacks and drink. So please, let's spend some time on networking if you can. Really appreciate that. Thank you.